Hey, what's going on? It's Barrett with Espresso Outlet. Today I wanted to cover how to replace the Declumper in your DF83. So depending on which model you have, there might be an older style Declumper. I feel like most of them work quite well, but sometimes people want to change them out. We do have a metal Mythos style Declumper. That's actually what's in it right now. So we're gonna go through taking it out, and I'm actually gonna just put the same Declumper back in, but I wanted to show you the steps that I take to do this. So to begin with, make sure that your grinder is unplugged. I unplugged it, hit the power button to ensure it doesn't turn on or off. Pull off your bellows. You might start by just hitting the bellow a few times and setting your bellow to the side. Take your dial indicator marker off and set it off to the side, as well as your dosing cup. So that will leave us with the grinder ready to disassemble. Start by unscrewing the adjustment collar. And I'm going to set mine off to the side. On the top, if this is your first time opening it, you'll want to make sure to mark the orientation of your burr because you can put it in 180 degrees off. So these are zeroed and aligned or calibrated from the factory. So if you were to spin it 180 degrees, you run the risk of it not being aligned properly. And I just usually recommend by marking it with an X or a Sharpie. Okay, so you can see where I've marked mine already. I've taken mine apart several times. And I do recommend pulling these rubber inserts out. Usually if you just pull the burr carrier off, the rubber inserts are gonna come out. We'll go over how to reinstall those properly later. Set your burr to the side and then also remove your wave spring and put it to the side so that it doesn't become damaged. I recommend taking these two screws. There's 4 screws. Take these 2 inner screws out. You can probably get it off without removing them completely, but I have noticed if you completely remove the screw, you'll run less of a risk of damaging your chute. So a lot of people, they pry too hard on their chute and end up breaking it. And it's really not that difficult. It's just kind of an odd motion to get them to pull off correctly. So I mentioned you can break this off really easy, and I recommend pulling it. For the most part, it's slightly down, like a forward motion rocking out, and then just a straight out. And usually if you give it a couple wiggles, it'll just slide right off. It's kind of a very odd motion, but you do run the risk of breaking this chute. So be very careful when you do this. And do it one more time. It's kind of like a down, rotating out this way slightly, and then pulling straight out motion. I usually give it a couple wiggles. Sometimes I push up on the plastic chute on the bottom. Just take your time here. I just did it and it's taken me there we go. So it seems to just catch and then all of a sudden it will just release. So from here, put all your parts off to the side so that they don't become damaged. And I really do recommend putting this grinder on its side, because when we start taking these screws out, it's pretty much inevitable that they will fall into the grinder, as well as potentially your declumpers. So if you have the plastic declumpers, let's see if you can see it on camera. If you have the plastic declumpers, they want to fall down in there, and the metal Mythos style one, it also does. So I just recommend putting it on its side. So I like to lay it on its left side because the wiring comes out the right. So I'll put a microfiber cloth down. We're just going to lay it on its side. Okay, from here, we're just going to use a Phillips head screwdriver, and we're going to carefully take these screws out. I recommend getting them completely loose and then reaching in there with your finger to go ahead and finish pulling them out. There is a little crush washer. Make sure that it doesn't fall off into your grinder. So this is the V2 with the anti-static probes in it, but yours might not have these probes on the chute. So if you have the V1 DF83, you won't see these additional probes on the side of your chute. Here is our metal Mythos style declumper. So these declumpers are quite thin and easy to damage. I recommend, if you're reinstalling it, to give it a nice wipe down and cleaning. And we'll wipe this face down with our finger real quick. So if we were changing out the declumper, it really doesn't matter. They're all about the same size and shape. Install it the way that, there's different styles. Let me just get the plastic one. So this plastic one here, what you'll need to ensure is that it is on the inside of the flap, because a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll put it on the outside, and you can see how it doesn't push any grounds through, where when you tuck it on the inside, now your grounds can go through. So that's a big issue that people do. The other thing that people do is they install them upside down. Your grounds aren't going this way, your grounds are going this way. So make sure to install it so that the flap is going down, not the lip is on the inside of your chute. But today we're going to do these Mythos style. We're going to tuck it up on the top. This can be a little bit awkward. Then we're going to grab a screw. Sorry if it's hard to see. We're going to just get it finger tight. And then let's do the top. And that's why we put it on its side. So dropped our screw. Okay, so we got our screw back. As you can tell, it can be a little bit awkward to get it reassembled. Okay, so now we're just going to snug up these two screws. Don't need to get too tight, you'll crack the plastic. Then we're going to set it back up. Okay, so to begin reassembling this, we have our chute cover. That was a little bit difficult to take off. Snap it back into place. And we'll use a Phillips head screwdriver to put these two screws back in. Then I like to push in on this piece of plastic as I snug up these two screws. Again, they don't need to be overly tight. So to put our burrs back in, we have a couple videos on this, but we're going to cover it here as well. Make sure that your wave spring is in this groove. It is possible to get it slightly off, but for the most part, it's pretty easy to put back in. Then to put your burrs in, make sure that you're putting it in the same orientation that you took it out. And then last, these wedges, they are narrower on one side. So downward, they are narrower. The top side is wider. You'll want to put the narrower side down and insert them in like so. Again, the narrow side down. Let's push them back in. Make sure when you put this back on that you're not going to strip your threads. I usually kind of go backwards until I feel it click to make sure that my threads are nice and aligned. And then I go forward. So for this grinder, since it does have the HE burrs in it, my 0 point's a little bit different than yours. I will probably re-zero mine off video. Put your dial indicator back on, your dosing cup, and your bellows. So it's as simple as that to swap out your declumper. Do take your time. You do run the risk of breaking some of the plastic chute. You do run the risk of dropping screws into your grinder. So those are probably the two major concerns if you're planning to do this yourself. It is pretty easy to do, but just understand that going into it. Doesn't take very many tools. Phillips head screwdriver is pretty much all you need for this. So thanks for watching. I hope this helps you if you decide to upgrade your declumper on the DF83.